because of some travel and some personal vacation. But for those of you who aren't aware, our other board members include Jason Borchik, the beach athlete director, Chris Brace, general membership director, Olga Tchaikovskaya, an independent director, Eric Andre Carter is also an independent director, and you always forget one. And then Evan Gitomer, who I thought I saw him on here for a second, as also our ninth and an independent director. So appreciate those of you who joined on the call here. What we're going to cover today is just an update on the organization, how it's moved over the last 9 to 12 months. It's touching on some of our forward projects and continuing goals and initiatives. And that touches on both our overall organization as well as some of the partner activity that we're excited about that's also pulling towards pushing the sport forward, and then membership and club growth as well. So we'll have time for some Q&A at the end as well, but we'll start there. Patrick, if you're able to, let me know if you would like to make any opening comment before I go ahead and get moving through a general overview. Unless there's issues. Well, hearing none. So I was hired in September of 2024. At that time, I believe of those individuals that I just mentioned, with the exception of Patrick, 8 of the 9 board members are new like I am during that same period of time. The last year or so has been incredibly eventful. We have, in terms of normal cadence of activities that we experience as an NGB, obviously we've had a full club season in that time. We've had our annual audit with the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. We've had a 4-year audit from the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee that happens once a quad, that goes through a stem to stern review of our legal standing and operations and certification, functional area certification as an NGB. And we have had 17, by the end of next month, we'll have had 17 national teams travel for major competitions internationally in that 11-month time frame. To our good fortune, the club season was a very strong one, not by the leaps and bounds that we will continue to endeavor for, but it was our largest membership year to date. Obviously, there's still a lot of ground to be gained in that regard, but a tremendous experience culminating with the college national championships at James Madison University, and then in Quad Cities, Iowa at TBK Bank Sports Complex. We had the national championships back in May, which were really great events that got us back on track in terms of pushing the engagement and the overall participation of our community. In terms of the national teams, also incredibly strong. We continue to try and build programs forward, but across those 17 events, which 2 of them are happening right now in Laredo, Spain. I hope you all find on the IHF Competitions YouTube page tomorrow. Our men's and women's teams are competing in Laredo, Spain in the IHF Global Beach Tour. And then our youth men's national team will go to Egypt in a week. And then the men's and women's teams each, for the first time, qualified and participate in the Junior Pan American Games, which they'll play in for the women the second week of August, and for the men the third. But of those 14 events that have already been accomplished, the United States brought home 10 medals, which is an absolutely tremendous output and a testament to the coaching staffs that we have in place and the preparations. An incredibly strong year, given traditional results, at least the recent tradition, versus where we got is really pretty exceptional. So that sort of lays out, these are the normal ways in which a federation, an NGB, is busy. Member activities, regular national team cadence, national teams qualifying for the qualifying tournaments and then qualifying for world championships, causing more and more ramp up of activities, and then the typical diligence and compliance that we engage in as an NGB. Granted, with the quadrennial audit, it's only once every 4 years, but generally speaking, this is a coalescence of a very busy year for the sort of typical things that NGB does. in reality, it's been a far busier year than that. In the last 9 months, we have resolved numerous outstanding compliance and non-filing issues with the U.S. Olympic Committee. We have worked extremely hard to rebuild relationships, and we have done so successfully with our partners at the Olympic Committee as well as the IHF and elsewhere. And the reality is that some 10 months ago, we had dozens of unpaid invoices reaching as far back as 2022, and the organization was not in a place of financial stability and in need of a pretty rapturous financial recovery just to be able to continue sustaining operations and to be able to put our teams and clubs in positions to just compete, as is our charge. That has been accomplished through a really tremendous team effort, and I can't thank the current and immediately former members of the board enough for the responsiveness and the conversation and the direct work that took to be able to resolve multiple years worth of backlogged work that were necessary from whether it was the IRS, whether it was the USOPC, whether it was other partners, to meet and exceed the expectations that are necessary for us to be able to sustain and build forward. We are to the tune of well into the six figures in a better net equity position as an organization than we were only 9 months ago, 10 months ago. That sets the stage for everything that we'll do next, for all the really important and tremendous developments that we have in tow that we will continue to land the plane on and keep building forward. But it's one of those things that must be noted, because while these seem like parallel tracks, the paperwork and filing and all that fun stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with getting our clubs and our players internationally on the court, they don't run parallel. They're one and the same. It's a necessary track for us to be able to develop anything, for us to move anything forward, and we had been off track. And so I'm very proud of the work and be proud to be a part of this organization for what it's been able to accomplish over that time. But as was revealed in my meetings at the end of last week, in review of our 4-year USOPC audit draft report, as well as same for our Safe Sport audit, I don't believe that a cleaner bill of health could have been possible, and I'm really extremely proud. We are now in a position where we are back determining our own path forward and really building from a place of stability and relational strength through the work that's been done to get us back through there. In terms of what developments we have accomplished, first and foremost, for those of you that have not logged in on Sport 80 and seen the tremendous work that's been pitching from several individuals, but is really particularly critical as we build towards 2028 and being a host nation for an Olympic tournament. Over the last 9 months has been built out dozens of educational courses that are really a tremendous start for building it both for referees and for coaches and for off officials. A deeply accessible, intuitive, and immediately practical education system that we have frankly had the human intelligence and the platform to be able to construct for a period of years. And to the people, particularly Michelle Mensing, who I know probably can't be on here because she's with the team in Spain right now, but an incredible lift and amount of work that's been done to build out entire years worth of curriculum that are long overdue, and that's now immediately accessible and free to every member, and really puts education and the first steps towards certifications, towards being a coach, towards being a referee, into a online learning platform that suits the fact that we are indeed in 2025. And so if people want to learn more about the sport, become more engaged, prepare themselves for meaningful roles, that is at their fingertips, exactly the way it should be. And we will continue building those resources out. But if you haven't, if you are wondering where to start in terms of wanting to get more involved in coaching, officiating, things like that, those tools are directly available to you, and those are the start. And we will continue to build on more seminars that build on those things, as was done, as some of you attended, in San Francisco earlier this year, where we ran an IHF D-level coaching license. We will look forward to doing more of that in the future in conversation and in cooperation with our international partners, but at the very least, in terms of having stuff directly available domestically so that people can learn and engage in handball more, that is now part and parcel with our membership in a way that it had not been before. I already mentioned, so I won't belabor it, but I think in terms of having what has been, by international travel, our busiest national team year in a number of years, with 17 teams traveling internationally, particularly given everything else that needed to be rebuilt and restructured, our coaching staffs deserve a tremendous amount of support and credit and I should say, I don't mean to gloss over it, because it means to assume that they are good and we like them. Our athletes obviously delivered the results on the court as well, but also, like I said, the contribution of our coaching staffs and those team leaders that help us manage the logistics on what is, even under normal circumstances, never much more than a very, very tight budget. This was a unique year in terms of circumstance and in terms of volume. So to bring back medals in 10 out of 14 events is exactly where we might expect to be as Americans, but has not been a level at which we had inhabited in some time. So a tremendous amount of progress, and congratulations there. Another huge part of who we need to be as a national governing body is not just a driver of programs ourselves, but also a supporter and a connector, so that individuals that have a strong idea, that have, and groups that have something that they want to build that is beneficial to handball, but does not have to come from central control, can be their own great idea, to create an ecosystem where people can attack those things and be supported, be connected with people who matter. A couple of those programs, as I'm sure the most public that people have probably seen, is Pro Handball USA, a group with a highly enterprising program to attempt to bring professional, world-class level handball teams to the United States for exhibition matches, and they hope to parlay that in cooperation with us into additional opportunities for our clubs, additional visibility in the United States, and programs for youth, grassroots, and infrastructure as well. So that's one such example. Another one that's been working very tremendously is Handball Futures Festival. They have been putting together a fantastic program of coaches from West Coast to East Coast, an advisory board, their own board of directors that's really working to grow and develop the sport. They've started on the women's side. They'll be running a capstone event next summer, establishing regional teams, which they're working right now in both athlete identification and development, including standing up mentorship programs for female athletes that get involved in their system, have the opportunity to try out, be seen, have interaction with coaching staffs. Tracy, I don't know if you are able to jump on here based on the security features of the town hall without me transitioning to full Q&A, but if you'd like to speak, I'm happy to give you a few moments here to discuss what the Handball Futures Festival is, since we have a moment. I've made you a presenter. Are you able to toggle your Tracy? Or sorry, not Tracy, excuse me. Sorry, Karen, I'm looking at you and I'm saying Tracy. Karen, are you able to toggle on your mic, or is that feature causing problems? No luck. It's irritating. Well, we'll resolve that over time. I promise we'll come back here once we have an opportunity there. But yeah, I have. Thing is, I've given all possible permissions on my side. Made you a presenter. Anyway, not to hold up everybody else, but rest assured. So first of all, if we don't have the opportunity to do that, the work that they've been doing, that's Karen Roslowski, who is their executive director. The Tracy that I was referring to is Tracy Williams-Johnson, who is been part of the national team program back to the 90s, and those two, and I don't mean to give Mike Kavanaugh or any of the other great individuals pushing that program along short shrift, but creating additional opportunities, particularly for women's play, working their best to coordinate with clubs, so that their program can be additive and generate additional high-performance opportunities is really, really tremendous. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you want more information of how you can support what they're doing and be more involved. There we go. So
okay, hold on. Let me hang up this other one. Okay, I figured it out.
Go for it.
Thank you so much. We've been working closely with the NGB. Some people who are in our database and getting communications know that we're a nonprofit that was formed last fall by a group of handball Olympians, really to foster the growth of handball in the United States and also to create a platform for talent identification and development in conjunction with the NGB, because that is the NGB's job. We're just trying to help and support it. We've had 3 part-time staff, 4 great coaches, and a board that's been very active, an advisory board, and I see some familiar faces even on this meeting of people that I've talked to as we've gone along. Just briefly, our strategy for this curling year is focused around, attracting and retaining elite athletes that might have an opportunity to be identified for the Team Handball, USA Team Handball Olympic athlete pool, and also hold a capstone event, which will be the Handball Futures Festival, which we are targeting to hold in July of 2026. It's going to be modeled after the Olympic sports festivals of the past. That was very successful. We had strong teams then, so that's what we're trying to do. In that, we're doing recruiting. As Mike said, we have a mentorship program we're just about to kick off this week. We've held 1 regional training camp, and now we're going to be doing a series of 5 development camps, 4 of those in conjunction with well-established tournaments that Mike has gracefully pointed us in the direction with, and thank you to all of the tournament directors who are working with us. And then the last part of the 5-prong push is the Handball Futures Festival. We still got to secure, we've secured $116,000 worth of money to date. We still are looking for more resources to pull everything off, but we're running lean and mean, and as handball people do, and trying to pull this together. So thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, check out our website. You can reach there, handballfutures.org, and I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have. I'll put my phone number in the chat, so if people want to call, they can.
Fantastic. Thanks, Karen. Sorry for the switch on the names. No, really, really great. Obviously, they're, like I said, the ability for individuals to attack their own projects and make their own difference is a huge, in terms of our institutional solvency and capability. It's something that I take as a critical indicator of that, is that we are, our community is only as healthy as everyone in it that's trying to get a project off the ground. If nobody can do anything, well, then that says more about us than about other individuals. So it's tremendous to see their project as well as some of the others. And so, like I said, we are always thrilled to have volunteers and contribution into the NGB. At the same time, if there's something that you want to attack, develop, some smaller section or regional section of the handball world that you or a group feel extremely motivated to go out and attack, and it's a field that you want to till relatively independently, this is not a problem for us. It's more than welcome, and we're we see that as part of our mission to help that grow and help that be organized, help that be coherent with everything else going on in the sport in this country. As far as where that leaves us moving forward in terms of what's coming down the pike and what we see as the strategic development further in the organization. I think obviously everybody knows that we need more people playing handball inside the United States, and we need more younger people playing handball inside the United States. Obviously, the fiscal and participatory solvency of this organization long term requires that we find ways to more seriously seed and develop youth and grassroots programming. That has not changed. That's not something that has been accomplished or knocked out of the ballpark in the last 9 or 10 months, but I feel that we are in an extremely strong position with some of our forthcoming partnerships to be able to attack that. The part and parcel with that is further refining and working on our competition structures, both in terms of beach and indoor, senior and collegiate, to make sure that those are as aligned as possible with both the quality outcomes that our clubs want and deserve, and helping us, kill two birds with one stone. We have a very limited number of resources that applies to all parties involved in this ecosystem, and we have not always done the best job of aligning our competitive structures with other initiatives, which is whether that is generating the best quality of experience or generating the best visibility for our clubs or generating opportunities for education or grassroots programs. And so that's something in the coming month. We've already had meetings with club leaders and with our beach community check-in calls as well, with restructuring and trying to refine these competition structures so that it's in better service of building something forward. Because we've been largely doing a very similar thing for quite a while, and that has some clubs have managed to find a good niche and get a foothold and build themselves. But a lot of what we've been doing is basically the same thing year over year without a lot of growth. And so trying to find those minute opportunities to refine and restructure our competition systems without asking for more from our clubs, because I don't think that that's realistic. I think that what we have in terms of the commitment of our community and the amount of resources given is exceptional. And so finding ways to optimize without begging for more is really where we are. From there, continuing to work on the model of our development and our calendar for national teams to make sure that we can sustain this tremendous uptick in success that we've had. We still have a long way to go in terms of levels that we can achieve. Obviously, 2028 on the horizon is a tournament that is reserved for the 11 best teams in the world and the host. Obviously, the natural inclination is that what we're endeavoring to do with developing our high performance plan and putting things around that is that you could just say it's the top 12 teams in the world by the time that we get there. Obviously, that's a very enterprising result, but that's the nature of going out there and trying to win victories in front of a tremendous opportunity for visibility for our sport. So the two most important things, as I already mentioned, with the youth and grassroots, combined with the development and programming to continue moving our men's and women's national teams to higher levels, is ultimately having the infrastructure in place and making the most of that visibility. This is not a 3-year project. There's a bunch of interstitial steps between now and then that we can be judged against and we can benchmark against as to whether or not we're making progress. But obviously, everyone knows it's undeniable the amount of commercial and public visibility that handball has during a 2-week window. That takes long-term preparation in as much as it does immediate planning and preparedness. There will be two other things forthcoming. I mean, we're positioning for a new collegiate program partnership that we're excited to push forward. I wish it was in a position to announce it right now. It's not quite there yet, but I can say we will be hosting 2 international events next year as well on the national team side. Again, there's a formal bidding process that goes through, but I can say with certainty that we will get to see our own national teams playing on our own soil next year, which I know is a small victory, but I think a really, really critical thing for the development of our sport is to give ourselves opportunities to engage with communities in our own community, the opportunity to engage with our teams. Obviously, I don't think for most of you on this call are familiar enough to know that we've largely had a 2-sphere approach, that our clubs don't have a lot of interaction or interconnection with our national teams, and vice versa. But it is all one community, and these are the groups of people that we owe duties to. So it's very, it's important for us that we see to the benefit of both. And there are ways that leveraging, the visibility and opportunities that our national team possesses, the talent currently in our athlete pools, there's ways that can be leveraged to benefit our clubs and develop the growth of our sport. Likewise, the capability, strengths, and tremendous commitment and volunteers within our clubs and the athletes there as well can be a tremendous opportunity to leverage and push forward our national team programs, and we intend to make sure that there's some form of articulation in our planning that makes that truly possible. Because ultimately, the two totally separate verticals approach, or as close to it as we've come in the last couple of years, leaves us short of maximizing everything that we can be as a sport in this country and everything that we can be as competitive teams internationally. With that, I would like to kick it to any of our board members that have joined to see if they would like any further comments. Obviously, we covered a lot of ground here, but it's been a very, very busy 10 months on my side. I am excited like I said, with the work of this board and the support that they've given to be able to get this organization into a place where more of our conversations in terms of planning can be directly about how do we get more handball happening, how do we get better handball happening, and less about how do we dig ourselves back to the point where we can talk about what's going on the court. It has been, like I said, several years of work compressed into a very short period, and the patience and tolerance of our volunteer board of directors to both contribute to that and also be updated constantly on all the swings and highs and lows of any process of remediation like that is really tremendous. So before we launch into a Q&A or anything else, Patrick, Julia, Drew, I think that's who we have there. Feel free, any of you that would like to make comment. This will be going directly into the Q&A after this. You guys should all have the same settings as Karen, so should be good. Unless, Karen, did you do something special that I didn't do on my side to be able to, because I have a hard time believing.
I was finally able to click on the mic to have it unmute.
Okay. So it was just a lag time.
Yeah, I think. I'm a better Zoom user than the Teams user.
All right, well, to begin with, while we let that refresh for a second, just to make sure that our board members have the opportunity to comment and jump in, I'm pretty confident that this will update and they'll be good to go, because everything's been fine momentarily. But anybody that would like to, Eddie is welcome at this stage to put a question in the chat if you have one. Let's see. And then once we get to a point where we've solved this for our board members, we'll have it solved for individuals in the audience to raise their questions verbally as well. But if you have anything that you just want to write down and in the chat, I'm happy to take that on now. All right. In terms of the verbal, in terms of the Q&A, does everyone have access to the hand raise function? I should have no problem being able to enable the microphone for individuals, but I guess we'll find out. So feel free to drop a line in the chat if you have a question, or raise your hand, and I will give the mic to you. All right, Mark, I have allowed your microphone. Mark, right, are you having success with that? I hit allow mic, so you should be. Yeah, that is really unfortunate. Okay, while we figure that out, to the question in the chat, yes, the strategic plan is something that we will be sharing with membership. It's been in a general phase. It's been complete in terms of overarching goals, but in terms of putting in KPIs and benchmarks that are more specific in terms of accruing and judging progress, that drilling down still needs to be done. We were on a timeline where it was necessary to construct a strategic plan, which is frankly any time you should never be operating without it. But obviously, given the amount of turnover on our board, getting key guiding principles and that broad strokes on paper is critically important. Obviously, getting through the summer here, we've had a lot of other activity. So in the next couple board meetings, it's something that has been raised that I've been in conversation with the USFAC about as well. That there will be a fuller distillation of key benchmarks and KPIs, and at that stage, then it'll be ready for full public address. It needs to go through the final paces of not so much depth, because it's not further depth. It's the like I said, it's benchmarking and actual sort of grading 9 to 12 months for ourselves, for lack of a better term.
Touching on some of our forward projects and continuing goals and initiatives.
Yes, John, I think that's a fair summary.
That touches on
proof, but our I think is
overall organization.
All right, I shall. First of all, good afternoon or evening to everyone. A question, kind of a two-parter in a way, aimed to Drew, if I can indulge him, and also to Mike, regarding the sudden departure of Robert Hedin. Drew, if you would care to comment, and certainly it's up to you if you don't feel like you want to comment, I'd be interested to hear from you what the team reaction was to that, because as I followed it, it was rather quick. And to Mike, I think those of us who have followed the men's national team over the last few years are aware of Robert's central role in the men's national team, not only as a coach, but as a recruiter, as the central force of the team, and suddenly he's gone. What are the plans for replacing him? Whatever body it is that will be making the selection, and I assume there'll be candidates for that, what will you be looking for to replace someone as essential to the team as Robert? So I guess maybe, Drew, would you care to comment first?
I don't know if he's joined through a special way. His specifically says no. Oh, there you go. Perfect.
He's saying no.
Yeah, he's and then highly secured facility. So yeah, for those of you that can't see it, okay. Drew's in a workspace right now. Quote, I do not have too many comments on the issue, other than we're really grateful for the time that we had with Robert and all he did for our program. We would not have had the success we had without him. So yeah, thanks, Drew, for jumping in on that. And sorry that we have to set a time where you're on a military installation where you can't get data in and out, which is probably a good thing. Yeah, and then Mark, to your point, yeah, we're already well into the process by now of identifying and firming up replacements, and that includes both the men's program and a long-term hire for our women's program. We've been engaged with the Olympic Committee and the IHF for almost 3 months at this point, making sure that we're defining all possible terms and also making sure that we're putting the most resources available to our coaching staff. Because, yeah, like obviously we don't want to take a step backward 7 years in with Robert and having a higher level of, I think opportunities to, I think there's opportunities to run the program better, to put the athletes in even better positions for success. But at the same time, the number one initiative is making sure that we have stronger leadership put in there so that the national team program keeps moving forward at any rate. There's obviously, like I said, a tremendous amount of experience that this team's garnered in the last couple World Championships that we want to make sure keeps driving forward into 2028 and beyond.
Thank you.
before we get to the next question, I would like to invite Patrick or Julie or David, our board members that are here, if they'd like to say anything now that we have all technology issues sorted with completeness.
Yeah, hopefully this is working. I couldn't figure out if it was a me issue or a technical issue on the previous call. Just wanted to echo some of your comments about the involvement of the board and the amount of work that's gone into getting the organization to a hopefully much more stable and forward-looking position. A lot of people have put in a lot of time to this, and I'm very grateful for the amount of work that's gone into that from all parties involved.
This is David. I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to sit on the board. I spent 6 years on the board of USA Volleyball, and I'm really enjoying the opportunity to be part of your organization.
Thank you both. Any additional questions? Yeah, John.
There we go.
And then we'll go to Christopher after that.
Hey, will you, Mike, will you as CEO ultimately be the decision authority for the hiring of the national team coaches?
Yes. Technically part of the role is all staff appointments, and this is ultimately about defining our high performance staff for the next period of time. Christopher Connor.
Yeah, so just wanted to I guess I heard the question kind of answered, due to the national team head coach, resigning and departing, but kind of goes to more of the grassroots or the development of USA Handball, in America. In terms of following that, whenever that new head coach comes in, is it going to be a tryout process? Because I know that on the website it has an athlete intake form to put your name in the pool and everything. Is it going to be a fair representation of athletes or dual athletes, elite athletes in America to really showcase their skills to get to that level or to learn to that level? Or is it going to be more so towards kind of what it's been going so far in terms of gaining the dual citizen European players to just kind of, go forward? Because, I kind of played USA Rugby and kind of watched how rugby does it. And rugby does it from the terms of grassrooting and developing American-born citizens to get into the skill or get into the sport, and then really focusing on them. And I kind of see USA Handball does a little bit of the difference. I know obviously to still stay competitive, but I feel like it kind of shoots, you guys in the foot, because most Americans kind of look at themselves or look at another American doing something and gets inspired to do that, plus at the grassroots level. So I just want to kind of any answer on that.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I think we would strive to as an organization. I think I mentioned there at the end is that having a high performance plan is different than your strategic plan, right? In terms of how you're running your organization versus how you're running your national team. But obviously, it being an interwoven element, the strongest programs that you'll see in the U.S. landscape in terms of national teams is that their high performance plan grows out of their grassroots activity, their overall strategic operation. So for sure, I understand your point there. So to tackle that just sort of piece by piece in the most direct fashion possible, yes, we'll absolutely have domestic identification opportunities. That's just a natural part of things that we should be doing when we have a core group of players, whether that's a core group of players in Europe or a core group of players like we have with our 55 active clubs here in the United States. You don't find anything that you're not looking for. So definitely there will be athlete identification opportunities. I hesitate to call them tryouts because one of the clarifications, which it's not a particularly material point all the time, but it's nuanced within the Olympic system, is that each selection for the national teams, our charge under the Ted Stevens Act is to pick the best team of available athletes for a given event for that specific period of time. So if the event's in a month and it's 7 days long, the obligation is to publicize that opportunity is available, and over the in that interceding month, figure out and project, have intelligent and competent coaching staff and selection committee determine, okay, what 16 or 14 athletes put us in the absolute best opportunity to win that particular event. That's sort of the microeconomic decision model of how national teams are to be run. And then you have a national team program in between those selections for a broader pool of athletes to be able to develop and advance. And so to that point, I don't think that there will ever be any question that in terms of the fairness of representations, that we will always just be taking the best athletes that we have right now. However, to your point, making more material opportunities so that someone in the United States could actually, be visible enough and have the opportunities to play so that they could be in that pool. Obviously, that's a critical part of our work. That's a metric of our own health, that whether or not the playing opportunities are available enough and strong enough in the United States to materialize those players. And the first step in that regard is definitely upon naming the new coaching staffs, there'll definitely be U.S.-based identifications, because while Robert had been here for 7 years, a new coach should introduce themselves, to the broadest pool of athletes possible and winnow down from there. And so that'll be a natural first step.
Thank you.
Yeah, John.
Trying to find the unmute, or I'm still unmuted, I guess. Are there any plans for a residency program? And if so, how far along are they?
They're only in exploratory stages right now. I wouldn't call them plans in so much as being explored, and it would not take the shape of at least the two that I'm most familiar with. It wouldn't take those same shapes. It would be the concept that we've discussed and that we're in discussions about and exploring is a training site. So it's somewhere that we can have a regular presence, but would not be sort of bellwethered by X number of people move to the area and these X people comprise the program and no one else. So it's like I said, so it's exploratory and small distinction in terms of what it is that we're actually exploring. But I think more or less, let me know if I can answer that further.
I think what you're saying is it's more of a place for the national team to train for a few weeks, maybe before like a national team event this next summer or something.
I think home base rather than everyone that wants to be in the program rehoming. Any other questions? Karen?
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
No.
Oh. Next question.
You said something about $116,000. I wasn't sure in what context that was, but can you give us an overview of how the revenue for the current year, the previous year, and then maybe pre-COVID, how that's looking in terms of overall revenue and in terms of sponsorships?
Yeah. So sponsorships, sorry, I don't have this number off the top of my head. Yeah, so sponsorships in totality are substantially higher than they've previously been by a factor of 20% so far. Continuing to build on that for this year. That's talking the totality of fiscal year 2025. Obviously, that's a huge part of the work. The biggest thing had been trying to make the two ends come together in terms of being able to financially support our programs for this year. So pre-COVID, if you just look at the sort of the movement of it for those of you, because I think it's a broader question that John has more background on than maybe some of you do. So just to go a little more detail. The IHF and USOPC really pushed in pretty strongly when Verizon volunteered to be a major sponsor of sort of a three-legged stool that came in all together and pushed really substantial sum of money towards the organization around 2019, leading into the pandemic. A lot of that was largely directed at staff salaries. Into 2020 and 2021, the organization actually ballooned to a pretty healthy position because that funding was pretty undisrupted, even though the organization had virtually no activities. As a result of PPP loans, it also had a very depressed level of cost for the same staff. Unfortunately, the organization in the 30 months that followed ran a 7-figure deficit in terms of liabilities over assets. And so, there's a gap in there, from mid 2022 through 2024 where you see the IHF, back off a little bit and ask some questions about what's the actual ROI here. The USOPC doing the same, and so it's so that's sort of that middle period, and then now we're in a very strong place with both partners. The conversations are fantastic. We're very encouraged by what we'll be able to bring back to the fore. I expect that by the end of 2025, it should be our highest revenue year in some time. So obviously, there's still a lot of work to do on that. We are certainly, even with improvement, pulled incredibly thin when we've had 5 teams playing in World Championships from September 24 to October 25. We'll have five teams playing in World Championships plus a lot of additional things like Junior Pan American Games and all these IHF trophies. Our teams winning needs to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Harnessed by us, largely by me as the leader of our staff, to generate resources as fast as it generates new competition opportunities. The organization was not, in a position to harness much of everything. We weren't exactly covering on a one-to-one basis our activities. Obviously, there had been a tremendous dearth. Many of you are aware in terms of the level of athlete support and the number of tournaments that were 100% or close to it athlete funded. We've gotten away from that. Our current coaching staffs are also doing a wonderful job pitching in. It's actually probably the most tremendous position that we've been in that I can't take any credit for in terms of the amount that's being pushed in by our current coaching staffs to be able to generate business and generate relationships that help drive our programs forward as well. So I think should take an aside to shout out that exceptional effort as well. And obviously the athletes have a long history in this organization of making their own way, and that's we can't give that short shrift either. So in terms of the overarching view, as you might imagine, I'm not going to discuss figures from specific stakeholders, but everybody that we have had previously, we're in a very good or better position with than we have been previously. And there have been, like I said, 8 additions around the edges in terms of smaller sponsors or donors in the last year that move the needle. But obviously the goal is to build a much broader coalition here. I think we're well on our way to doing that. The first thing that we obviously had to do was get our house in order to invite people in. But yeah, to Martin Blow's question, are there plans for attracting and securing new sponsors? Yes, that underscores functionally a huge portion of the planning right now, because at the end of the day, we could not possibly have sent more teams, more directions than we did this year, and that's not because we couldn't have qualified for more things or fewer events could have been canceled for reasons that had nothing to do with us. It's because we didn't have bandwidth to do. There are NGBs that have a third of the national team activity that we have that have substantially higher budgets, that's not a them criticism, that's an us problem that we'll continue working very hard to fix, and is core to what we have to put together.
So Mike, just to follow up, because I'm focused on the revenues, and you started talking about expenses, and I couldn't quite follow everything, but I think what you were saying, and you can correct me, 20% increase over last year, but still not to where we were pre-COVID when we had the greater support from the IHF. Is that a correct summary?
In terms of total revenues, yes. In terms of sponsors, we're substantially higher. But obviously, the USOPC, the IHF they don't get bucketed as a sponsor. So those are technically grants. So it's two different categories. So if we're talking totality of revenue, still trying to trend up and crest where that had been at the peak of that. In terms of sponsors, we're well ahead of where we've been any time recently.
In terms of the number of sponsors?
In terms of the total amount of money we get from our sponsors.
You were saying 20% increase?
Yeah.
Yeah. We can debate how substantial that is. More is better.
Any other questions?
Well, I don't want to monopolize, but I'll keep asking. This question is for the board president, Patrick. The IHF will be having its first contested presidential election in 16 years. I won't go into the litany of ethical issues surrounding the current president, who's also 81 years old. But how will those concerns factor into the USA Team Handball's decision? And how will USA Team Handball decide who to vote for? Will the full board have a role in the decision on who to vote for?
At this point, we haven't received any proposals or visions or anything from any of the candidates that will be running. So we have nothing to make a real decision on, aside from, as you mentioned, what we know about past leadership. That being said, I'm not going to sit in my corner and make a decision on my own. I'm not a one-man organization. It will definitely be a board conversation about who we feel is the best fit, and the vote will go in that direction based on what the board decides collectively.
All right. Well, this was originally for Drew Donlin, and I wanted Drew's perspective but since he can't talk, I would let either Patrick or Mike come into it. And my question, and it was framed for Drew, and it was, I think the Forum Club Handball program was pretty instrumental to your development as a player. Are you concerned with the loss of FCH support? And what steps have you taken or are you taking to get this program back so other athletes can participate in this development program?
We've reached out numerous times, but I think it's been pretty transparent that program was on its way out. I've used the larger portion. This is a discussion that I had with the previous men's coaching staff in terms of the value of that program moving forward and what players that we would still be around to utilize it. So we definitely reached out and tried to re-engage the conversation. At the same time, it was very directly stated as a very low priority moving forward, just based on the fact that there were limitations on that program in terms of how many years an athlete could use it and the fact that they could only be engaged in the program once. And the coaching staff at the time felt very strongly that pretty much everybody who they wanted to put in it had already been in it. So that said, we're happy to have additional resources to put players in good clubs. But that's a conversation I'll have to take in with the new coaching staff to determine, like, again, in terms of trying to re-engage that conversation. It's a two-way street, and right now, obviously, there's activity at Forum that's focused on some other things right now as well. But like I said, that it's a conversation that was not a high priority for the previous coaching staff, and it's that it's in flux, and we'll attack it as such when we have a new staff in place.
This question is for Patrick. A lot's happened since what I call the sequence of events of last year, and you stepped in as the interim board president. I don't know if you envisioned moving on from interim to more of a permanent role, but I think that's what you are now. Can you elaborate on how that came about and what your intentions are going forward?
To your point, no, I did not envision necessarily continuing past interim. My intention was to get the board back to a place of stability, which I believe we are at. As far as moving forward, the current board has asked me to keep serving as a permanent chair for the meeting. And it's something that I intend to keep doing until I'm asked to not do it anymore, or I run out of my elected term, which is coming due the end of next year anyway. So for now, I'm focused on making sure that everything that we do is done by the book. Every process is followed. Everything that we need to do to get the organization to keep growing and keep being healthy is done appropriately.
Thanks.
Christopher.
I don't know if this is like a really good question to ask, but just kind of to help me, I'm just going to think about it or just say it because I have it in my head. In terms of, I know like on the meeting you kind of talked about like the grassroots development, the long run. The long run is like obviously having more people from America playing handball. In terms of that, have you guys I know Handball Futures, and I've been kind of getting emails from it, and I think it's a perfect program, just kind of getting more grassroots development. But I know that there is some have you guys ever thought about helping out other clubs or other teams? Because I know NYC recently had a youth cup that brought 300 different kids into it from different schools. And I think maybe in a grassroots development sense, that's the best place to do it, to hit some of the inner city schools or the inner city districts, or hitting areas or cities that just don't have much availability around them, and just getting kids into anything possible. This is the areas of where they could just play whatever sport. And I know handball in New York, that's kind of starting to develop a little bit more. But have you guys also kind of discussed focusing on other cities and kind of building youth cup tournaments or building camps or summer camps or whatever to build that hype for little kids around that age to get into handball?
Yeah, we definitely, and we have some examples in what happened this summer with the school cup there in New York is fantastic. I hope it continues to grow and stabilize. I'm sure it will. I know Vinny and the rest of you put a ton of hours into that. So the biggest thing for us is trying to find, right, because the concept of grassroots is about individuals, about action at the micro level, right? So for our input on finding ways to support that is one, instances like that where we could come in and push in terms of visibility or in terms of equipment. Those are opportunities that we have. Our bigger view in the conversation around grassroots has focused more on facilities and, like you said, summer camps, things that generate equity, right? Because we could easily throw resources at something that gets everyone into a gym or everyone into an open field. But what we're missing is continual regular touches, right? We don't have regularized programming for youth. That's something that Benny has done really well building, that Martin Bilello in San Francisco with his middle school program. And so, yeah, partnering with institutions, with facilities, with in a camp model, that sort of program is good. And that's definitely something that we're talking about, is figuring out, okay, how do we generate resources to be able to reinvest in our community in this way? And then you start having the conversation of saying, okay, where is there equity? Where is there repeat opportunity for individuals to come back and play again and again and again? Because we have, I don't think we'll ever have a limiting factor or have any difficulty exposing people to the sport once, right? But that's not the ticket in terms of building out a base and building out grassroots and actually standing behind and pushing the volunteers that are like driving the sport forward is just finding ways where there's sort of equity in the process in terms of, look, we did this last year, so this year it can be bigger. That's exactly what Benny has built with this particular program. That's absolutely something that needs to have our attention and our further support. But it's not as but obviously you have to have a base of individuals there that contribute to make that happen, because it's not as simple as if we ran if we ran a huge get together down in Houston and pulled in as many school kids as we can. You still need somebody down there in that community as an anchor that's running the regular program. So it's sort of, if you want to go fishing, you need to bring a boat and a net, and that's the big focus with how we have to approach grassroots is figuring out how we're putting in efforts that can then be sustained.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. First of all, I wanted to give kudos to our Chief Executive Director, Karen, for talking about Handball Futures. And I just wanted to take the time, and I did just put something in the chat, to thank each of you for all that you continue to do to grow this great sport in the United States. There's so many great efforts going on, and we would love to work collaboratively with any of you to continue this process, because our main goal for Handball Futures is to be that pipeline to help USA Team Handball field a great team for LA 2028. And we feel like through some of the competitive collegiate sports that we have here in the States, as well as the professional teams that we've reached out to, that we can make that happen. But we'd love to do that with your help. As you can see in the chat, we have four developmental camps that we're going to host. And we're hosting those collaboratively with some of the existing handball tournaments that are already doing great. So we plan to do those things, but we would need your help in making sure that once we find some of these athletes, if they're from your area, that you'd be willing to take them on your team, because oftentimes we find some people who do not have a club team. It's their first time playing, but they want to get into the sport. So we just need to know from you if you're willing for us to share your information with them so they can contact you. So we were planning on possibly putting something on our website by state so people would know where to go. And I think if USA Team Handball has that, we could actually just put our link to go to that link to let them know where they could find a handball team in their area. But we just need your feedback on that. Thank you, Mike.
No problem. And yeah, it's I'm very hopeful for something that we've talked a lot about, and that organization, Handball Futures, and these individuals on this call have put a ton of work in to building up the quality of what events that they're trying to put together to invite people into the sport, and they come into this clear-eyed that that being able to connect them with local clubs is a tremendous addition to their program, and likewise any additional training, any additional identification, any additional opportunities to play are a huge benefit to our club. So I'm hopeful that yields great returns for both their recruiting efforts and for the clubs as recipients on the back end for what we hope is dozens of new athletes into the sport looking for somewhere local to play, because those clubs exist, and I appreciate them inviting people to the door. On that note, before we sign off, any last questions? John,
I got one more.
All right.
I attended the North American and Caribbean Handball Confederation Club Championships in Las Vegas earlier this month, and I was corrected. I said that the California Eagles hadn't played a game all season. They did play a friendly against San Diego this past November. They didn't attend our national championships. Very, very interesting roster with a lot of people who don't even live in the United States. LA Team Handball Club, they did participate at the national championships, but I'm pretty certain that not a single player on that team that was in Las Vegas played at our national championships. And then we had NIAC participate. I understand why people that don't live, I mean, it says New York Athletic Club, but I'm not sure how many people even live in New York City. This is a long-standing issue with our club sports. And I guess my concern is that when it turns into a major event where someone qualifies to go take on the world, it's making kind of a mockery of our club system. Without going into a debate to the merits of the teams, is there anything that the competition committee is going to do to try and make more sense out of who the United States sends to that competition?
Yes. Yeah, we're well on our way to that. We've already met with the club leaders earlier this month. We'll already had a follow-up call with the Continental Confederation, and we will again this week with representatives from the club community as well. So yes, we're well on our way. Without going into what's a problem and what's not a problem, I appreciate the bandwidth on that. But yes, there's something to correct here, and we're working on it.
I've raised this issue before, and we haven't gotten results on it before. Actually, a little bit was done. They had a requirement for six Americans on the team. So again, that resulted in some guys getting an opportunity to play in a good competition, but they really weren't part of those clubs.
No, and that's an extension of the broader club system that we have to revisit. Is that I said not speaking about any club in particular, at least on the negative side, because on the positive side is that it's like because we have Patrick, Benny, Martin Bolillo, and Olivier on this call. It's like like a Cal Heat club member, a New York City club member, Chicago club member, a Cal Heat or the San Diego club member. I don't know which one I didn't say at the top end. But like those four clubs, for example, it's like, yeah, who plays for those teams and and who doesn't, generally speaking. But there is a relatively loose connection and an absence of formality and structure, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have a lot of athletes hunting for every opportunity to play because there aren't enough and there aren't enough quality. So there's something that trickles all the way down that then trickles all the way up as well. So it's not there are things I think that are relatively simple for us to fix, and at the same time, it is a bit representative of how we actually are doing things week in and week out. That is a longer term and broader project to correct. But yes, I agree that it has in fact been this way for almost the whole term of North America having a qualifier to the club championships, whatever that is, 6 or 7 years now. So we intend to make strides.
I'm done. Thanks for answering all my questions.
Thank you. And anybody else before we jump off here? Well, thank you all that have made the time, took 80 minutes out of your day, migrated across channels to be here so that we could have some audio. I deeply appreciate it. As well as, again, a special thanks to Julia and Drew, David, and Patrick for the proactive amount of work that our board is doing these days and for making more time on top of our regular meetings to be here and represent the organization and pitch in. So thank you all. And, again, you guys, I hope you know how to reach me. If you have any questions, concerns, or if you just have a project that you're itching to get going that we can at all support or help invigorate. Really excited about the direction this community is headed, and we have a tremendous amount of work still to do, but we certainly, I think, have the capacity, our community, to get it done, and projects that are just an idea 8-9 months ago. For example, Handball Futures, the scale the scale and substance that has accomplished and grown to just in the last 8 or 9 months is an example of just one of what community members can accomplish if they just really want to attack a specific part of the problem. So I'm deeply appreciative of that, and we'll eat the whale one bite at a time. Thanks, everybody.